The story begins with a groundbreaking space mission called Project Connection. This ambitious project aims to establish a link between Earth and a distant planet, believed to be inhabited by intelligent life. The project involves two machines, named Machine 1 and Machine 2, stationed in orbit around Earth. The primary goal is to form an instantaneous transport connection between the two planets. 60 years before the events of the movie, Machine 2 was launched on an unmanned journey across the galaxy, covering a distance of 20 light-years to reach the target planet. This voyage was entirely autonomous, a remarkable feat of technological advancement and space exploration. The narrative picks up on a significant day, referred to as Connection Day, marking the day when Machine 2 finally reaches its destination. The first phase of the Connection Day involves Flight A, an unmanned probe sent to test the newly formed link and collect basic data about the distant planet. Following the success of Flight A, the next step, Flight B, is a manned mission tasked with orbiting the planet twice to gather information before returning to Earth. Captain James, an experienced and skilled pilot, is chosen for this critical mission. His sole objective is to navigate around the planet, gather intelligence, and safely return. The movie captures the tense and exciting moments as Captain James prepares for his journey. He is seen at the controls of a new device designed for this mission, communicating with the mission control team, referred to as Com1. The team informs James that they are finalizing the last data package, confirming the flight trajectories, and recommending necessary corrections for a successful mission. Com1 instructs James to initiate a burn on their count, marking the beginning of this daring and historic flight. Soon after, Captain James encounters a dire situation as his spacecraft crash lands on the distant planet E581. Stranded in an unknown world with limited resources, James must quickly adapt to survive. He parachutes down to the planet's surface, finding it habitable but realizing that his supplies are scant. The scene portrays James meticulously assessing his surroundings. With a bag in hand and an oxygen mask covering his face, he begins to explore the alien terrain. As he walks across the landscape, he stumbles upon a large fire, which he cautiously passes by. Taking a moment to rest, James opens his bag to inventory his supplies. He decides to switch his oxygen mask for a nasal cannula, allowing him to breathe more comfortably and consume his rations. Despite the isolation and uncertainty, Captain James attempts to maintain communication with Mission Control Com1. He reports his situation, detailing his unexpected crash landing on E581. Contrary to expectations, the planet appears barren and devoid of intelligent life. James informs Com1 that his food and water supplies are only sufficient for 5 days. Considering the communication delay with Earth, he hopes to receive a response within 3 hours. As James continues his journey, holding a water bottle, a sudden and loud noise from above startles him, causing him to fall. In the chaos, he loses his water bottle and desperately begins searching for a water source, a critical need for his survival. 24 hours after the crash on E581, Captain James reaches out to Mission Control, Com1, once again. In his report, he expresses concern over the lack of communication from Earth. He clings to the hope that the silence is due to a problem with his equipment, and that a rescue mission is already underway. James also mentions the crucial issue of having lost his water supply, emphasizing the need to find an alternative source of water for survival. Despite the uncertainty of his situation, he vows to continue sending reports to Com1. In his quest for water, James hears the sound of a river and rushes towards it. Upon finding it, he cautiously tests the water for safety. After deeming it suitable for drinking, he purifies it with a tablet and quenches his thirst. This momentary relief, however, is short-lived. As he explores the alien planet, James encounters a moving object. Using his magnifier, he discovers it's a robot. Observing the robot's behavior, he concludes that they are on a hunt. When he tries to communicate by waving his hand, the robot unexpectedly fires at him. James narrowly escapes the attack, managing to find a safe place to settle down temporarily. Feeling increasingly isolated, Captain James begins to lose hope in Com1 and the possibility of rescue. In a subsequent report, he shares his dire situation. He's running low on rations and has had no contact from Mission Control. Faced with these desperate circumstances, James starts considering a backup plan. He reveals his observation of intelligent life on E581, noting their possession of a machine, speculating that this technology might be capable of returning him to orbit. He sees the inhabitants in their machine as his only hope for getting back home. We then find Captain James in a moment of respite, sitting by the road, eating and resting against his backpack. His mind drifts to memories of playing with a little girl, a scene that offers a glimpse into his personal life and emotional state. This serene moment is abruptly shattered by the sound of a gunshot, snapping James back to the harsh reality of his situation. James quickly realizes the danger he's in when he sees two robots approaching him. One resembles a human, and the other looks like a dog. In a desperate bid for safety, he runs into the forest, but the robots are in hot pursuit. The human-like robot catches up to him and shoots James in the hand. Despite his injury, James fights back, managing to incapacitate the robot with a piece of wood. He then hastily extracts something from the disabled robot. After the confrontation, James takes a moment to address his wound. He wraps the injury with a bandage and, exhausted, falls asleep on the forest floor. When he awakens, he is startled to find the dog-like robot close by. To his surprise, this robot seems friendly and is drawn to the object James took from the other robot. Realizing this, James discerns that the dog-like robot is following the object in his possession. Later, we see Captain James making another report to Con1. During his communication, he discovers a container inscribed with an alien language. He informs Con1 about his find, describing it as a container covered in an unfamiliar script. James also mentions that there seems to be an underground movement or presence, indicating further mysteries to unravel on this alien planet. After a while, Captain James forms an unusual alliance with the dog-like robot, guided by the object in his possession that the robot seems to follow. Recognizing the potential value of this connection, James remarks that they need to find the robot's owner. As they journey together, James comes across a house and decides to investigate. Inside the house, he discovers a recorded video. When he plays it, the video shows scenes of human families celebrating an event. However, this scene of joy is abruptly interrupted by a jet destroying the place, hinting at a violent and chaotic history on the planet. In addition to the video, James finds a gun in the house. He takes the gun, placing it in his bag along with the object the robot is drawn to. He then attaches the bag to the dog-like robot, which secures the bag on its back and starts walking autonomously. Confused but curious about the robot's destination, Captain James decides to follow it. He hypothesizes that the robot might be leading him to its home, potentially allowing him to locate its owners. In his subsequent report to Con1, Captain James shares his observations about the planet's surface. He describes witnessing signs of devastating war and speculates that the machines or robots are aiding their creators who might be living underground. He expresses hope that he will soon make contact with these creators. With some luck, he believes he can utilize their technology to find a way back home. Captain James then continues his journey with the dog-like robot, curious about where it might lead him. Suddenly, the robot halts, prompting James to question its stopping, despite knowing it cannot respond. He asks, somewhat rhetorically, "Are we here?" signaling his uncertainty about their location and purpose. At that moment, the robot releases smoke, creating a concealment screen around itself. This action is timely, as a war jet suddenly appears overhead and begins firing at them. In a frantic response to this new danger, Captain James seeks shelter by running into a nearby house. However, he quickly realizes the dog-like robot isn't following him. The reason becomes apparent. The robot is programmed to follow the object in James's bag, which is now attached to the robot's back, leaving it immobilized. Understanding the dilemma, James dashes back to the robot, retrieves the bag, and the robot obediently follows him into the house, reactivating its movement. The scene then shifts to Captain James taking cover behind a tank. As the tank fires, the sound is overwhelmingly loud, forcing James to cover his ears. Amidst the confusion and noise, he inadvertently runs down a staircase and discovers a door at the bottom. Opening the door, he is immediately struck by a foul odor, so overpowering that it causes him to recoil and vomit. In this very suspenseful narrative of the movie, the scene intensifies as Captain James, armed with a gun and his face mask, bravely enters a mysterious room. Navigating the corridors, he suddenly encounters a robot. Reacting instinctively, James fires at the robot, but to his surprise, the robot remains unaffected by the gunfire. Alarmed, James retreats, but the robot appears uninterested in him and continues on its path into the room. Curious yet cautious, James follows the robot and is confronted with a grim sight, a room filled with many dead individuals. The narrative then shifts to a communication from Con1 to Captain James. Com-1 acknowledges receiving his transmission, but informs him of ongoing communication issues. They explain that the machine insertion orbit is highly irregular, causing difficulties in maintaining a lock-on signal. Despite their best efforts, they convey their inability to send a rescue party immediately, urging James to just hang in there until they can resolve the problem. Upon hearing this message, James continues exploring the facility and encounters yet another lifeless being. His exploration leads him to a control room brimming with screens. Through these screens, he witnesses the grim reality of widespread death. An automated system voice breaks the silence, declaring an automatic system override and confirming that everyone is dead. The movie concludes with a deep scene of our protagonist, Captain James, walking across the barren landscape of the planet, accompanied by his robot dog. This ending encapsulates the story's central themes of isolation, survival, and the unknown. The story portrays the journey of a lone astronaut in an alien environment, confronting the challenges of communication barriers, hostile entities, and the haunting reality of a desolate world. The ending profoundly leaves a sense of the vastness and mystery of space, and the resilience of the human spirit in the face of overwhelming odds.